evolution of sound.
What's up, ninjas? My name is Sam World. Welcome to my studio. It's a mess. If you're not using it, it's clean. I'm just kidding, guys. Calvin Harris Studio is a mess too. So today's topic of discussion, ninjas, we are going to be looking at my Good Life remix. I showed it to you guys on Snap. Now it's time to talk about everything. It's done, 97% done. There's a few things that changed, and I'll let you guys know as I play it through. Now, first things to take into account before I play this through, guys, is one, the master is hitting at -4 perceived loudness to -3 LUFS. That's the way I want it. Some of you guys might say, fucking Sam World, preserve dynamics, Sam World. I'm like, not with this song. This song is meant to hit hard, be dirty, not be dynamic and shit, okay? Second, I used Kirby's 666, which you guys can see on the screen right now, as my reference track. I used the WLM on it to see how loud it gets, perceived loudness, and where it peaks. And it's peaking at the same place my track is. -3 to -4 LUFS. Mine goes from -3 to -4 to -7 on the break. So keep that in mind. It's going to be very loud. But after I do this playthrough, then I'll put it low. That way you're not like, so we get it. It's loud. You don't have to show off, okay? Now, I'm proud about the mix and master. There are a couple of things I changed, like the lead sounds a bit like it could use a bit more, like less distortion, but we'll talk about why it's like that. Without further ado, guys, let's get started. So here we go.
This is the good
All right, guys. So pretty much the song is done. 97% of it is done. Now I'm gonna leave a comment with a table of contents for you guys, so you guys can go wherever you want. Let's say you want to learn how I mix the lead or how I mix the track. I'll put like table of contents, mixing, then mastering, and blah blah. So you guys can go to where you want. Now, if you guys want to see it all the way through, awesome. I'll try and make it as fun and interesting for you as possible. Now, we're gonna start with the arrangement, okay? And as I go through stuff, stay eerie. I will explain the mixing and mastering on it. I do not like to hide anything that I do. So first off, let's get started with the arrangement. So the intro is going to be 30 seconds long. I chose a 30-second intro over a 45-second or a minute one because, one, I consider this to be commercial dance music, EDM, big room or electro house, along the lines of Kirby stuff, but not copying Kirby. The reference track was picked after I realized that the song sounds a lot like Kirby style. It uses kind of like the same bass, not in the same format that he does. I gave it my own twist to it. The lead is kind of similar to 666, not like that, but it's in the sense that it needs to be the front. So that's why I picked that as a reference. Okay, so the intro is 30 seconds because I wanted to have a breakdown. I love the vocals and I wanted to use them as much as possible. And if I want to have a breakdown at the beginning, I don't use a 1-minute intro. I don't use a 45-second intro. I use a 30-second intro so that the DJ mixes it in fast, and then we have our break. So then our break is about, I believe, 45 seconds, and then we have a drop that's about 30 seconds. We have a bridge, which I will talk about, and let's get started with the intro. So in the intro, I have the kick. I have my drums that I made for this track. And then we have pretty much a lot of effects, like a downlifter, a vocal shot, and then this vocal effect I made by duplicating the vocal lead by a lot. Okay, this is the same vocal effect I'm going to use in the drop. That's why it has that gap. And it also keeps that consistent theme of stop, stop. So that's what I'll have it like that. We have a downlifter, and all the effects is being sidechained, as you guys can see there. You know what? Let me lower this too so we know it's loud, so we don't need to have it loud like that anymore. So there we have those vocal shots, which I will talk about more in the drop because that's why they're here like that. Now, whenever I make my intros, I want to tease the shit out of whoever's listening. In this case, it's going to be Oliver Heldens, you know, or whoever listens to it and decides whether it's a good track or not. So in my intros, I always like to tease, and the way that the intro is set up, it sounds very similar to the drop in the sense of rhythm and all that. So that's why I like it. The intro is my favorite part of the track and the outro because it just sounds so bouncy. We have those shots. Now that's a fill that I found from a sample pack. And talking about sample packs, guys, the reason I'm producing on my laptop is because, one, I bought a couple of sample packs and I already had a few of these just for my laptop. Mainly because I want to keep things simple as possible. I want to have 4 sample packs, and that's it, no more. And then those sample packs, I made sure I had everything I needed, so makes life a lot easier. Here we have the bass playing, not at its full potential, and we also have the lead, just the top layer of the lead playing. And the lead's gonna sound very cool. I like the effect it has. This is the only part of the lead that isn't part of the drop, which sounds like that's not part of the drop at all. Now those stops are because of the drop, but I just love the way they sound because it's like doom doom, and then it's like someone's going back, and then when it stops, it's like a punch, and then it's charging up, and then boom, and it just gives that extra bounce to it. Now here for the buildup of the first one, we have just a standard uplifter. We have white noise that I made in Silent 1 playing. As you guys can see there. And then we just have a standard, you know, uplifter. That's about it. Nothing much going on. Maybe I should add a noise to it as well, but I'll do that later. So with that, we reach the break arrangement. The break arrangement, again, it's going to be a 30-second break and then a 15-second build-up. It's done that way because the first break is going to be very small. And then the second break is a lot bigger, as you guys will see. Now, in my break, what I have is pretty much a pad, which is playing in the low end. I have a piano, which sounds like this. And the piano comes from Ableton itself, only with CLA. And then I have these neat little things that I made. It's just a plug I made in Silent 1. And then I have ping pong and reverb on it. It's going to sound like this together. Now I plays a note up right now to give that eerie feeling. There we have that. So that's more for atmosphere. It's a lot of atmosphere. So because I have that going on, I have a lot. It doesn't let me use the ad-libs from the original vocal. Now the vocal itself is here. It's just standard placed, you know, how Oliver would have wanted it. And that's going to be the break there. It's fairly simple. We want to let the vocal shine as much as possible. And then we have an effect. We win. So when it gets into that part, that's where I have the build-up starting. I have the drop leads filtering in with the drop, not all of it, just part of it. I have this fill that I got from a sample pack again. And then I have all these effects going on. We have an impact and a downlifter to let the listener know that, hey, we're about to go into the build-up. Pay attention. And then we have these uplifters to lead us into the build-up. Just imagine someone telling you to go this way, which is where we want the listener to go, to the drop. And all of this makes it sound more smooth. Now just four snares hitting bam, 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 nothing fancy. And then we have these neat chop that I got from the vocal, which sounds like it's like a huh. And then I really like it because it has that extra kind of bounce. I had to automate the panning on it though. With that, we reach the drop arrangement. The drop arrangement is going to be here. We have a kick. Again, very small kick. We'll talk about it in the mixing. Why it needs to be small. We have the drums that I made playing. Now, the reason I made the drums is because, 1, the bass is going to have a rhythm. 2, the leads are going to have a rhythm. 3, bass, leads, and the drums. So if you have a rhythm, you know, let's say you use a drum loop. Like you guys know, I used to use drum loops a lot. Now I don't. What's going to happen is that drum loop wasn't specifically made for your track. So the person that made it's not like thinking, oh, Samuel's making this type of track. Oh, I'm going to make a drum loop in this pack because I know he's going to buy it and then he's going to use it for that track. Nah, so, you know, if you have different rhythms that don't work well together, they're going to clash and your track's not going to jump. It's going to sound very flat, very stale, not good at all. So that's why we have that drum pattern. And then if you hear it with the bass, you can hear that sound hits when the bass goes up. Fairly simple there. We have the lead playing this drop. Down. Now when the lead goes down, the bass goes down with it as well, and this creates sort of like a melodic part to the drop, which isn't too melodic, just perfect enough to keep that hard, badass look going. Then the bass goes up to a G, from an F to a G, and then an A. So it creates this melodic and it keeps the drop very hard. And that's going to be it. That's pretty much the whole drop. In the second part of the drop, I change it up and I'll show you guys how. Next, we have these vocal shots happening. Remember that effects vocal from the intro? And then we also have white noise from Silent 1 and a crash, which sounds like this. And with that, we go into the mini break. After 8 bars, you always want to have this sort of mini break. This is the good extra I add is a ride and maybe some uplifters happening in the background. That's about it. Now there's some latency issues. That's why you're gonna see nothing here and then you hear the ride. So just keep that in mind. So now we're at the bridge. The bridge is cool, and this is why I have a bridge. I come from a trance background. In fact, I have about 50 unreleased trance songs that I never released because I never wanted to promote them, deal with that shit, but I still listen to them when I run now and then, and I love them. But the bridge in trance is the part where like the drums are starting to get filtered out, the kicks getting filtered out, and then you add like delay and reverb. So that's what this is pretty much where it's coming from. Now let me get out of this shit because it's annoying to see those fucking emails. Now, pretty much, you know, what we have here is just stuff being automated. Like the drums are getting filtered, but at the same time, I'm giving them reverb from Sparkburb, which is from UV, which is my favorite reverb now. And I want to thank them for sponsoring me. They gave me all their plugins: UV Falcon, UV Sparkburb, UV Chorus, UV Taurus. Sparkburb and Relayer, which is an advanced delay unit that I haven't learned yet, but when I do, I'm gonna be fucking using it. And then I have a ping pong effect, just simple delay. Just this is the bridge. It's meant to move the track, you know, take you from the drop to the break without having that instant like stop. And I love the bridge. In all my tracks, you're probably gonna hear it. It's my style. I'm come from a trance background, so again, I apply that. I love the bridges in trance, and I love them in this type of music no matter what. Even if it's meant to be a hard-hitting track, I'm never going to get rid of bridges from me. See, it's filtering, delay. Kicks filtering too. We have that. Now everything here is the same as in the first break, but now it's longer, and we have the strings, which are gonna take this to the next level, which is my favorite part of the breaks, to be honest.
I know you feel like you're standing still.
Effects, and then an impact to bring that in. Here we have the drums come back in with that delay and reverb. And it just sounds so fucking dope, in my opinion, the way it sounds like. I did it by accident. I was like, it has to stay like that. It's so good. Now we have the build up. Second drop, what I changed is just the melody portion of it. You guys can see it's here. I added, like, instead of going back to A, it goes to a higher, here, to a higher, harmonic note to A, which is the C, I believe. And that gives that variation that's needed, and it's gonna sound. Okay, so pretty much in the build here, we have the bass playing and the piano are playing still, and you guys are probably gonna be like, huh, why? Because I'm automating an EQ3 and reverb, and what this does is, first off, the reverb's making it a lot more softer. Reverb tends to make stuff sound a lot more wimpy, but it makes it sound beautiful. So think wimpy and beautiful. The EQ3, get rid of the low end. Again, no bass, but we still want to have that kind of theme going, and it works so well.
This is the good life. This is the good life. The good life.
But there's no bass. You know, if you guys want to see the automation, here it is. So pretty much there we have the second drop, which again, I changed that portion of it. The melody goes from, instead of A to a C in a portion of it, which gives dun 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 dun. So this is where it happens here. You can see, dun, 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 and it gives that extra final climax touch. Everything else is the same. Now we have the.
This is the good life.
We you have the outro not playing at its full potential. The bass is just playing parts of the drop. And then it's kind of filtered, I believe. If it's not, then it's gonna get filtered. Yeah, see, it's getting filtered there.
This is the good life.
And that's it. Outro is the opposite of the intro. Now let's move on to mixing the track. First off, the kick is very small, guys. And I always tell this to you guys. I made so many videos, like 3 of them, where I say the same thing. I say it in my start to finish videos. And some of you guys still don't listen. And I also have students that don't listen. So don't worry. It's everyone. If you want to have a big bass, you need to have a small kick. There's no way around it unless you want to sidechain the crap out of your bass and it still sounds like a wimpy bass. So remember this. Small kick, big bass, big kick, small bass. You're never going to have both of them be big. Okay, I'll give you that. So here you can see the kick is this small, and then pretty much the bass has this much to shine. And to be honest, it's going to be more on like that. That's how much room our bass has to shine and sound loud. So that's why this kick works. Kick is just set to fully mono. So it's dead in the center. You never want a wide kick. Why would anyone want a wide kick? The drums, we have a simple delay attached to them, which is going to make them sound wider. Now think of this. Wideness is just something playing out of phase. That's why people are always like, no, don't widen your shit. You're gonna make your track out of phase. It doesn't mean you're making your whole track out of phase. It means you're making certain elements of it. So if we use the Haas effect, what we're doing is pretty much making the left side kind of lag a little compared to the right side, okay? And that's pretty much it. So what the effect this gives us is it just makes it wide. I'm gonna take it off and on. So this makes our track sound wider, and it's a very simple effect. Just delay one side by a millisecond or so, and that's about it. You get a wider sound, and I did that for the drums. Now the drums themselves come from sample packs that are fairly awesome, so I didn't do much to them. As you guys can see, the clap is the only one that's getting just some saturation onto it. And saturation is adding harmonics. So it's pretty much boosting at the harmonic frequencies that are being used. Just think of it like that. And it just sounds great. On the clap, makes it pop out more. When it comes to the fills, I really don't do anything to them besides, you know, to be honest, I don't even take away the low end because I feel like it takes away a lot of strength. So there's no point in there. Now we go on to the most important part of mixing this track, which is the sub bass and the bass. These two motherfuckers are going to be the ones that makes the average producer not get their track as loud, because the first thing that distorts is going to be your leads or your low end. And the way we work it here is, let me play the kick and the bass together and you can see how it sounds like. The goal is to have your kick hit and go like, okay man, it's not fighting with the bass, and that's when you know you did a good job. Now, the bass is in mono, the sub is in mono, and the kick is in mono. So you can see why there's always problems. So let's talk a little bit about how I did it so they work together. We'll start with the sub, as that's the hardest part of everything. This is the sub in the kick plane. Notice how the sub is not fighting with the kick at all. Notice how the kick hits and it doesn't alter the sub in any way. How do we do that? Well, this is where it starts. First off, the sub is from Serum. We have an EQ. Motherfuckers. I swear, my girlfriend's texting like her fucking friend right now. So pretty much, we got a lot of the highs out because, again, we have that upper layer of the bass that I'm going to show you next. And then we have this notch here, which, again, this is where the kick is peaking. So we added this there just to kind of make sure that the kick doesn't fight with the sub in this area. Now remember, the sub does change key, so then that's where the kick and the bass aren't really going to be fighting. The peaks aren't in the same area. God damn it. Now, the next thing is saturation. We are using warm-up lows preset, and then we're altering it a bit. The wet is at 71.4%, which should be there by default, the preset. We're doing this width at 0% because we're applying it to the sub, which, again, we want it to be fully mono, no stereo on it. Frequency, 119, again, low end. Bass, 6.29. And then drive 3.43. I know a lot of you guys are going to comment shit about those fucking messages popping up right now. Fucking shit. I wish I knew how to take them off. Next, we have a compressor because the sub's going to be moving in the drop. Check this out where it moves. I think it's here. That's where a lot of the compressor really starts to work its magic. A lot of people don't realize this, but since the sub is really a mountain, the moment it goes into lower territory in the frequency, it increases in volume. So we have a compressor, no makeup gain, attack is instantaneous almost to control that change. Look how the gain reduction goes from being a little bit, and then it starts to gain reduct more once it goes to a lower key. So that's there to control that, a limiter to control it just in case it decides to peak for some reason. Mono, and then a sidechain, which is heavy sidechain. You can see the signal here. Now let's go to the bass. The bass, upper layer of the bass sounds like this. It's from Spire. It's the evolution of house, future house sound banks. If you guys want these type of sounds, it's in there. Support your boy. It's right here. Evolution Sound presents future house. And yes, I do love freshly squeezed for trance sound banks. Now the next thing is saturation. Let me show you what the saturation does. Makes it a lot louder. Adds harmonics. Dry and wet fully up. Auto filter to, lower the filter on it, blah, blah. Then we have an EQ here where we're notching down here because we have a lead that's mono specifically and then a wide lead. So this is to not interfere with that mono lead, to let it pop through more in the mono area, and then just sidechain. Now in the sub, I forgot to show you what the saturation is doing to it. Check it out. I'm gonna take it off. And it's just making it a lot more stronger, a lot more, you can hear it better, and it just controls it as well. And then the compressor, it's controlling that volume peak that's going to happen no matter what. It happens to everybody when you use sub, so that's the way you control it, guys. And that's going to be it for this. The bass and the sub together sound like so. Fairly simple. Simple. All right, so now we're going to go to the leads, which is the second most important thing, which sound like. We have a stereo lead. It's going to be Serum. And then this one is the wide lead. We're using S1 to make it wide. Get rid of the lows. And then we have a mono dedicated lead, which sounds like this. And together they sound like this. Alright, so the mono lead is getting again reduced here and increased here. Now in the drop leads, this is where the magic happens. This is where it gets processed to hell. First off, a glue compressor. It's really giving it that energy, and it's going to be doing parallel compression. This means that the dry and wet is set to 50%. We're compressing the crap out of it, but we're only compressing half of the signal, not the whole signal, and this is called parallel compression. It's meant to get shit loud. The next thing is the saturator. The saturator is doing this. Now saturation is adding harmonics again. It just means boosting in the frequencies that are being used in the sound. If you're playing F, you're going to boost F, A sharp, or B fucking G flat, whatever you fucking music theory motherfuckers always whine about. Sorry guys, I love you. Anyways, that's what it's going to do. We have different modes. I decided to go with hard curve, and this is where the distortion happens, which I'm iffy about. Remember I told you guys I'm iffy about the mix sound on one thing, and that's the lead, and that's going to be that. Next, we have two OTTs. The reason I have two is because they're both set to 20%, and one of them's 30. That's the way it doesn't work as hard, and we compress evenly. It sounds good. Never make your compressors work super hard. Then we have the FF Pro Q2, or Fab Filter Pro Q2. We're doing mid-side EQing. The mono signal is getting boosted. The side signal is getting boosted a tiny bit here. Bet you guys can barely hear it. And then we're reducing a lot in the low end, and that's going to allow the lead to pop out, especially when it's set to mono. Mid-side allows you to have mono. So one lead is set to mono, because if the track is played in mono, we want the lead to still sound strong. That's the main reason for it. and pretty much just some sidechain and a auto filter to just EQ it in and out. That's gonna be it for that. Now the drums, I think we talked about them already, and that's gonna be it for the important stuff. The vocal has no processing at all. Oliver Heldens gave us a really good vocal to stew with, so we're not even gonna touch that. The next thing is the pad. We have a pad in the break, which is gonna be fairly mono. We're gonna go over here. Now, since it's playing in the low end, that's why I wanted to have it mono. However, I wanted it to surround the sound as well at the same time, so I didn't make it fully mono. I put it at 39% width, which again, the utility is going to let you lower stuff. The lower it goes below 100, the more mono it's going to get. We're decreasing here to let the vocal pop through there, and the ARP and the piano, again, making room for stuff, and then just a sidechain, so when it plays with the kick, boom, boom, no interfering there. The next thing is, we're not going to talk about the vocal because the vocal is processed by Oliver Heldens himself. The piano is from Ableton. Vocal is here, so we decrease there to let the vocal pop through. Then CLA to pretty much finalize it. Piano Man preset. Fairly easy, guys. And then we have strings here. Well, not strings, but it's like a... Again, it's made with a ping pong effect and a reverb effect, and then we just have it so that it just comes in and leaves, so it doesn't fuck up the mix for that long. Fairly simple. I'm getting sleepy, man. All right, so pretty much there, it's going to be that. Now, the one other thing is the strings here come in, and when the strings come in, pretty much the piano's already set to left, pan to the left, and the strings to the right. This is going to allow them to play together at the same time. The pianos take up most of the left side while the strings take up the right. And this is just making room for stuff. In order to make room for stuff, you have panning, and you also have, and pretty much, again, stereo field, stereo, mono, and EQ. So, they're going to be fighting for sure, but that's the best way we can make them fit together. And then sounds like this.
We win and start again. Keep on moving. We win and start again.
Now the drums are getting automated by my favorite reverb now, which is called Sparkverb by UV, and also a simple delay, which gives it that effect, which I think I talked about. I fucking love that effect. And that's going to be it for that. And then on the second drop, everything is mixed the same way. And that's going to be it for that. Now, we've talked about the mixing. Now let's talk about the mastering. The mastering, this is not mastering. This is just automation. Again, this automation is used because on the build-up, we have a lot of stuff going on. We want to get rid of the lows. Add reverb, makes it sound wimpy. And then, boom, get rid of the reverb. Put the bass back on the drop. Makes it sound 10 times louder. My mastering chain is just this. Multi-band compression. Ozone imager. Again, the low end needs to be mono. You need to see a fucking straight line for that low end signal. And then everything else, I usually leave the mid-lows in the center where they're at. You know, I don't reduce, so I don't add by that much. And then the highs get widened. The super high, super wide, and then the middle highs, which is here, middle high frequencies get widened as well. The multi-band is there to, again, just compress in different multi-bands, and then you can kind of move it back. Whatever, let's say the highs sound too loud to you, you just move it forward. If they sound too low to you, you can move it back, and that's upward compression, and then we have downward compression. And the last thing is the limiter, which is the Pro L. Just the fun part, you just move this fucking knob up with the preset of your choosing. I use always the loud and punchy house preset, and we have that done. That's the mastering, guys. Now, pretty much, the track Kirby 666 is my reference track. Again, I looked at it to see where it was hitting at in the sense of loudness. my track's playing, but this is the Kirby track. I don't want to play it because I don't want to get copyrighted, but you can see it's fucking loud. So that's why my track is as equally as loud. As a reference, I want to get as loud as him. Doesn't mean I'm jockeying him or I'm copying his style, but I just want to get as loud as him. And that's going to be it for the reference. We have a Spectrum and a WLM, and then we have a mono here to make sure it sounds good in mono. And that's going to be it. Now, the last thing I failed to mention was that the leads do have reverb on them. The layers, I get rid of the reverb and the delays on them, and then I have dedicated reverb and dedicated delay. Now, the new reverb that's my favorite is by UV. It's called Spark Verb, and I love it to death. Literally, I hit up UV to review their synth called Falcon, which the review is going to come. And they're going to be giving a free copy away to one of you guys. So be sure to be on the lookout because that synth is one of the most wanted synths that no one can pirate. And it costs $350. And at the same time, I want to thank UV for sponsoring me, my channel again, with these amazing plugins that I get to use, which hopefully I'll use in the future. Definitely the best reverb I've ever used. And I fucking love it. And then just, drum verb here. And that's going to be it. Now, I also got Relayer by them and Thoris, which I don't know how to use yet. So once I know how to use them, I'll probably start using them in my productions. And that's going to be how I made pretty much this remix of Good Life, guys. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you guys want to vote for me again, I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care, ninjas, and have an amazing